Hello and welcome to What is PMP, an introduction to the Project Management Professional Certification. Hello everybody, my name is Cornelius Fichtner. I have been a PMP trainer since about 2008 or so, and today I want to help you to get started on the right foot toward your PMP exam certification, because the PMP exam, not an easy exam. It requires you to be dedicated, motivated. My goal today is to give you the basics about the exam and to show you not just that, but also a study plan, help you to get on the path to success here. But what am I saying? We have an agenda here. Let's take a look at the agenda. 5 parts. We'll start with an exam overview. I'll show you how to apply for your exam. We'll talk about what's on the exam. Part 3 actually has 2 parts, 3.1, 3.2. You'll see. We'll talk about certification renewal, because the exam is not for life. And part 5, study plan, high-level study materials. And I'm going to be closing with some takeaways. As always, because we are live here on various platforms, please feel free to use the chat and ask any questions that you would like about the PMP exam, administration about it, all of that. I'll be happy to bring up those questions and answer them as we go through our live event here today. And we're starting with part 1, the PMP exam. What is it? Facts and figures, prerequisites, all those things. So let us start with the question that is the title of this webinar. What is PMP? What is the PMP exam? Well, it is the world's leading project management certification, at least according to the Project Management Institute. I got this here from their website. It now includes also not only predictive project management, but you also have to understand agile and hybrid. It proves your leadership experience and expertise in any way of working. It kind of supercharges your career as a project leader across industry. And it also is a good thing for the organizations, because if you have the PMP exam, that means something. Right? The organizations, potential employers of yours, they see you have the PMP and they know exactly what you've gone through, what your experience is, and they know that you can manage a project for them. The PMP exam is not the only exam that PMI offers. PMI has a family of certifications. We are going to be focusing here on the PMP exam there at the top left. I'll be mentioning the CAPM here, top center, and the PMI ACP top right a couple of times throughout the webinar, but our focus really is at the top left. The PMP exam is the 100-pound gorilla or 1,000-pound gorilla in the family of certifications, really. In fact, it's the 1 million-pound gorilla. What am I saying here? Because over 1 million people across the globe have a PMP certification. So you will be joining a lot of your peers with the PMP certification. And across the globe means that project management professionals in more than 200 countries have earned and maintained their PMP certification. There's a reason that we have project professionals in over 200 countries who want that, right? It delivers real value in the form of professional credibility, deep knowledge, and even increased salary, increased earning potential. We'll get to that in just a bit. And these benefits, they have staying power. This is not something that's going to go away soon. If you have the PMP exam and you maintain it and you keep it up, this is a long-term investment in your career. It's not only a matter of higher potential salaries across many careers. It's about getting credit for what you already know, honing your skills. It's about pushing yourself to excel and being recognized for that excellence. All right, we have the first person joining us here, Simone, joining us from Jamaica. Hello. Let's see, has a question. I do have some amount of project management here. My banking administrator was wondering if the CAPM job is more appropriate. Simone, allow me to tell you to wait just a tad, because we'll get to exactly your situation in a few slides. I don't exactly know how many, but your question is actually going to be answered here on in the next 20 minutes or so. All right. So, variety of advantages if you are PMI certified. First and foremost, they help establish your dedication to the proficiency in project management. This is because if you want to get a PMI certificate, you must satisfy educational and professional experience requirements that PMI has established. You can't just take this exam without meeting basic requirements. And for the PMP, they're not just basic, they're pretty darn high. And this is probably why Simone asks, not sure if the PMP is the right thing for me and if I'm qualified, right? So, and if you have several of these credentials, you gain distinction, recognition. It's a growing community. And a credential, a certification from PMI also increases your visibility, both within your organization as well as on a global level, right? They're renowned, they're respected throughout the world, and part of that marketability comes from the prestige, right, of these certifications. If you have a PMP certificate, like I said, that means something. There is credibility behind it, and that will help you to get to move forward in your career. So why the PMP? Well, it adds value, right? CIO magazine ranked the PMP certificate as the top project management certification in North America because it demonstrates that you have specific skills that employers want and seek, dedication to excellence, and the capacity to perform at the highest levels. PMP also delivers benefits, especially for you, because the median salary of project professionals, and we'll see that on the next slide, is a lot higher than for those without it. And it proves that you work smarter because it shows that you have the skills to drive business results and increase your organization's impact in the office and around the world. All right, I keep saying that you're supposed to get more money with the PMP exam. Let's take a look at this. Here we go. The median salary for those who hold the PMP exam across the world, right, is 16% higher on average. And this is from PMI's salary survey that they did. They did this across 40 countries. They do this year after year after year. And this here is the number from the 2021 survey. Let me show this to you on a world map here. The image itself is from the 2017 survey. They didn't do that in the 2021. They didn't have this nice image. The numbers, however, are updated to the 2021 survey. So in the United States, if you are a PMP, you have the potential of earning 32% more than somebody who doesn't have the PMP. That's a third more, right? Brazil, 20% more. Poland, 22%. South Africa, 28%. India, 18%. These are fantastic numbers, right? And I'm telling you this here. If you live in Colombia and you are a project manager and you decide, I don't need the PMP certification, you're making a huge mistake, because Colombia is at the top of this list. You could earn 56% more than somebody who doesn't have a PMP. Obviously, this is not like you're taking the exam and then you go to your boss and you say, hey, give me more money. According to the salary survey, I'm supposed to earn more. It means oftentimes changing jobs, finding a better paying job. That's what's involved in this quite often there. I talked about the requirements, right? So these are the basic requirements that you need. There are two options. If you have a 4-year degree, master's degree, a bachelor's degree, global equivalent of that on the left-hand side, you need 36 months of leading a project, and you need 35 contact hours of project management training. If you are CAPM certified, then you do not have to get those 35 contact hours. If, however, you have a secondary degree, so no bachelor's degree there, then you have to show 60 months of leading projects, and you also need those 35 contact hours of project management education, of project management training. Now, don't feel bad if you don't have a 4-year degree. For example, I do not have a 4-year degree. I simply had to show that I have 60 years, yes, I have 60 years of project management experience, 60 months of project management experience, and I was able to take the PMP exam. There's absolutely no shame in being on the right-hand side here and just having to show more experience in leading projects. What does experience mean? Okay, and this is probably the moment where Simone needs to start paying a lot of attention, because experience means you have to lead and direct a project. Okay, so in the end, you are responsible for the project. People come to you. They look to you for guidance on this project. You are in charge. If a decision has to be made, and an ultimate decision about the project, you are part of that decision-making team. If you are just a tester, if you are a subject matter expert on the project, if you are a developer, a designer, somebody who helps develop generally what's on the project, but you don't actually lead the project, not good enough. So we're not talking working on a project. No. Leading the team, being in charge of the project, you hold the budget responsibility. If something goes wrong, you're going to get fired, right? So you have all the pros and cons there of being the leader of that project. So that's what PMI is looking for. You are in charge. You are the woman or the man who is responsible for this project. You lead and direct it. So what do you do if you do not have that type of experience? You don't have 36 months of leading and directing. You don't have 60 months of leading and directing so that you can meet this experience. Well, there are two other certifications that I can recommend in that case. On the left, we have the PMI ACP, the Agile Certified Practitioner. And that's an important distinction. Project Management Professional, Agile Certified Practitioner. Okay, this certification on the left is for those people who work on Agile projects. You participate on Agile projects. You need a secondary degree. So high school diploma is all you need. You have to show that you have worked for at least 12 months on a project as a subject matter expert, as a designer, or anything. And in addition to those 12 months, you also need 8 months on Agile. So if you've worked for 12 months on an Agile project only, that's not good enough. You need 12 and 8. Okay, so 12 months working on projects as a subject matter expert, as a project participant, and 8 months as a project participant on Agile projects. And you need 21 contact hours of Agile education training. And then on the right-hand side, if you are truly just a junior project manager, somebody who has recently just entered the field, then the CAPM might be more suitable for you. So you need a secondary degree, high school diploma, that's all it takes. And then you need 23 hours of project management education training. And these 23 contact hours there on the left, 21, right, 23, that's simply going to a class, right? So the 23 hours of contact hours of education for the CAPM, that is just taking a class that teaches you project management basics in order to prepare for your CAPM exam. Now, having heard that, Simone, what do you think? Where do you fall? Do you have the qualifications to become the PMP, or would it be better for you to go on to the CAPM? Let us know what you think there in that regard. I do, by the way, also have a webinar about identifying whether or not you qualify. It's called Do I Qualify for the PMP exam? So you may want to watch that as well. If you're not sure, is CAPM right? Is PMP right for me? Watch my webinar. Do I qualify for the PMP exam? So much for part one, the basics of the PMP exam. Here we go. Simone says, seems best for me to do the CAPM. And Simone, this is a good starting point, frankly, because when you are CAPM certified, it shows to an employer, it shows to you, this is what I want as a career. I am heading towards being a good and great project manager. As you are then continuing, you will be able to gain the experience that you need for the PMP and take it later on. Plus, remember, because you're CAPM certified, you don't actually need to get all the 35 training, the 35 contact hours that PMI is requiring. That's waived for CAPMs there. All right. So much for part one. Let's go to part two. This is a quick part about the application, online form tips. This is a screenshot here of the application itself on the left-hand side. This is for the experience section, I believe, that you have to fill in. So let's take a look at what you have to fill in. So it's an online application. In the past, PMI made this available as a PDF document as well. It's no longer available. Online only, no more offline applying. You wouldn't have to fill in anything that you don't expect. They want your name, they want your contact info, because you have to have either a secondary degree or an advanced degree. You have to show them your general education. What do you have? And then you have to fill in the project management requirements. So this is what we saw there on the screenshot here on the left. So you have to tell them what project you were in charge of and what type of project it was, from when to when was it, so that the system can calculate and make sure that it's 36 or 60 hours. So all of that information you have to put in. It's really nothing that you wouldn't expect that you have to put in. Also, the education has to be put in, your project management experience and your education, those 35 contact hours have to go into that. Oh, and by the way, we have in the comments, thank you very much to Shannon, who is in the background helping me out here, posted the link to the Do I Qualify for the PMP exam. If that interests you, check out the comments of this webinar. You can print a review PDF from anything that you put in online, and then you can make sure that everything is correct before you submit it. Quick tip here from my side. When you fill this in here, especially here at the bottom where we're putting in, all the descriptions right there for your project, do use PMBOK guide vocabulary. Open up the PMBOK guide, look in the back of the PMBOK guide, look at the vocabulary. It is called a project charter and not a project initiation document. No matter what you call it in your company, use the vocabulary from the PMBOK guide, right? And doing this shows PMI that you are able to use the appropriate vocabulary, that you understand projects from PMI eyes perspective, right? It also ensures that the person who's reviewing your application can easily recognize and understand the type of experience that you are writing down. It just makes things easier for everybody. A couple more documentation tips here. First of all, prepare for an audit. Audits are completely random. No matter what some people say, there is no profiling. PMI in its exam content outline says they are random. And because PMI follows its own code of ethics, they are random, right? There is no profiling at all. And by preparing for an audit, I mean this. This is what I did. I filled in my PMP exam application. Remember, you can print a PDF. Great. Take the appropriate pages and send those to the people you're referencing. With every project, you have to say, this is my contact person. This person here can verify that I was the project manager on this project. So what I did is I said, okay, here you go, Maximilian, my former boss there. And I said, hey, Max, would you please review these numbers and confirm in case I get audited? Is that okay? Will you say, yes, this is correct, right? Max came back and said, yep, this is good. I wasn't audited, but I was prepared. Just imagine if I hadn't done this and they would have sent everything out. Max comes back and says, oh, this is wrong. This is not correct. I would have failed the audit. I may not ever have been able to become PMP certified. So it's better to be prepared and think along the ways of, I want to make sure that I pass this exam. Then I often get asked, well, I'm running internal projects and sometimes I'm also running customer projects. So I work for an external customer. What do I put onto the form as a contact person? But it's really quite simple. Always put your supervisor on it or your project sponsor if you had a project sponsor. So it doesn't matter. If you are working internally for a company, you're managing internal projects, put your supervisor, put your project sponsor onto that field where it says contact person. If you have external facing projects, customer project, a customer pays you for that, you still have a boss internally. Put that boss on it for two reasons. First of all, you may no longer have the contact information of the 20 customers you worked for, but you probably still have the contact information of your boss internally. Plus, if this gets audited, imagine you have to reach out to 20 customers and say, could you please confirm that I worked on this project for you, right? 7 may do it, 13 may not, but your boss, single person, yeah, they can easily do that for you. So always put your supervisor on it or your project sponsor if you have one. Do not put the clients onto your application. Okay. Alma has joined us from Bosnia-Herzegovina. Welcome. Thank you for being here on our live webinar. Right, we are moving on to part 3.1. We're looking at the exam, what's being tested. We'll talk about the exam content outline. And I have a sample PMP exam question for you from that book that's behind me there on the bookshelf. That you can see that behind me. Let's see, can you see it? Right there, that book right there. Yep. So sample question from that book there behind me. Okay. So the first thing I have to say is this here. The PMP exam is not a test of the PMBOK guide. Let me repeat that. The PMP exam is not a test of the PMBOK guide. No matter what people tell you, the questions on the PMP exam are based on the ECO, the PMP exam content outline, ECO. The ECO defines and describes what's on the exam. This is the syllabus on the exam, and it has kind of a 3-level approach. It has domains, 3 domains. We'll see them in just a moment. It includes tasks, and it has enablers. Let's take a look at these things here. So first of all, 3 domains. There are 3 domains: people, process, and business environment, 14 tasks in people. Expect 42% of the questions of your exam to be about managing people, leading people. Expect 50% of the questions of your exam to be process oriented, risk management, budgeting, those kind of things. 17 tasks are part of the process, and then business environment, understanding how your project fits into the overall business that you work in. 4 tasks with 8%. Now, I said that 42% of the questions will be from the people domain. There is one additional distinction we have to make. 21% of those questions will be about predictive project management, and 21% will be about agile and hybrid. PMI writes, to be precise, about half of the examination. Yeah, so it's not exactly 50-50, right? It could be 47 to 53 on your exam, or it could be 40 to 60 on somebody else's. So about half will represent predictive, and the other half will represent agile, hybrid approaches, right? They're found throughout the 3 domains. So 50-50 here in people, process, and business environment. They're not isolated to any particular domain, to any particular task. All right, so now you know about the domains, people, process, and business environment. What does PMI mean by a task? Well, here is an example of a task and its enablers. This here is task 2 from domain 1, the people domain, and this is about leading a team. So we project managers have to lead a team. That is the task. And the sub-bullets that you see, those are the enablers, because if you set a clear vision and mission on your project, that enables you to lead a team. If you support diversity and inclusion, that enables you to lead a team. If you value servant leadership, that enables you to lead a team. If you determine an appropriate leadership style, you get it. That enables you to lead a team. So these enablers are the things that we do in order to enable us to perform the task. Okay, so now we have the domains, we have the tasks, and we have the enablers covered. Now let's get to the book behind me on my shelf. Here it is. The PMP exam sample question is coming from this book here, the 50 PMP exam prep questions everybody gets wrong on the exam. You can find that at pmexamsimulator.com/Amazon. This is where the book is. So this is now the audience participation part. I would like you to tell me if the correct answer is A, B, C, or D. So let us get to the question. Here should be the question. There we go. There we are. Okay, so let me read the question to you, and then I'll give you a moment so that you can take a look at it. So here we go. You have just been assigned to an upcoming agile project. As part of project project work, you review all of the organization's policies and procedures regarding the compliance. You realize that only some of them may be applicable to your project. What should you do first? Should you do A, switch the project management approach from agile to traditional? Should you do B, incorporate all compliance policies and procedures in the implementation strategy? Is it C, ensure compliance activities are included in the project schedule baseline? Or is it D, classify the compliance categories to determine the expenditure of project resources? I'll give you about 25 seconds or so. It's a pretty hard question, actually, to answer. So I'll give you about 25 seconds. Read the question again, read the answers, and let me know. A, B, C, or D. Okay, so far I've only got one answer coming in here. Anna Yampolskaya, C. Anna thinks that you have to ensure that the compliance activities are included. Let's see, we got one more. Mia, D. We have Manu, C. We have B. Simone answers this one. Okay, so we have B, C, D. Nobody so far has said A. The correct answer in this particular case is, drumroll please, it is D. Classify the compliance categories to determine the expenditure of project resources. So, congratulations to Mia, who had it right, and commiserations to everybody else here who selected B or C and unfortunately got it wrong. Now, you may be looking at this going, I'm sorry, what? Classify the compliance categories? What on earth does that even mean? Nobody does this. I have never heard of this. This is a bad question for the PMP exam. You might think so, but it isn't, because this is actually taken straight from the PMP exam content outline. In task 3, business environment, the task there is, as you can see at the top, plan and manage project compliance. And as part of that, you have to know and understand what it means to classify compliance categories. And this is why I'm saying the PMP exam is not based on the PMBOK guide. The PMP exam is based on the exam content outline. You have to understand and be familiar with every single task and every single enabler from the exam content outline, because PMI will probably ask you about that during your actual exam. Okay. I agree, however, this was a hard question, right? So don't feel bad if you didn't get it, because, well, it is from my book there, the 50 hardest questions that we have in our exam simulator. So not surprising. At part 3.2, we continue about the exam itself, duration, number of questions, and also the results. So how long is it? How many questions do you have? Well, you have 3 hours and 50 minutes to answer all 180 questions. And here's a tip, very important. Don't leave a single question unanswered. There is no penalty for answering a question wrong on the PMP exam. You have 2 options. You either answer it wrong or you answer it correctly. That's it, nothing else. If you don't answer it, it's wrong. So if you don't answer a question, you've just, you're losing an opportunity, right? You don't know the answer, guess, right? Flip a coin, do whatever it takes, but you have to choose A, B, C, or D, right? That's what you want to do. And when I say A, B, C, or D, there are actually many question types on the exam. Multiple choice, A, B, C, or D. Multiple correct is another one. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Select 2, select 3 out of this. Drag and drop, where you literally have to drag and drop things from left to right or from right to left and do things like that. Point and click, where in this S-curve budget do you spend most of the money, and then you have to go and you have to click on where in the curve you have to do something. And then limited, fill in the blank, where instead of clicking A, B, C, or D, you have to type A, B, C, or D on your keyboard. I asked PMI, why do you do that? Why do you have people type in A, B, C, or D on the keyboard? They said, variety. If you sit there in front of the computer for 3 hours and 50 minutes and you click A, click B, click C, click D, that's boring and it just numbs your mind. But if occasionally you get a, type the letter on your keyboard, that wakes you up and gives a variety during the exam. Most questions are going to be scenario-based. What would you do as a project manager? How should the project manager react? Those kind of things. And the questions on the exam are vague. They are really, really, really vague. And even though I keep telling these people, they come back and they say, man, they're really vague. I did not expect that to be the case. Big question is always, what is the pass rate? Well, the short of it is, we don't know. We have no idea what the PMP exam pass rate is. Only PMI knows, and PMI isn't making that data public. Each question is scored, each exam is scored on what they call sound psychometric analysis. That basically means that they're following good practices in exam development. Each question may have a different weight, right? So you get 0.75 for an easy question, but you get 1.5 for a hard question, and may be scored on its individual merit. That's what it means. Do they truly do it that way? We don't know. All we know is we're using sound psychometric analysis. Now, between you and I and the fence post, and don't tell anybody else, I have heard from somebody within PMI, each question is 1 point. So they don't actually do the varying levels. So you get half a point for this and 1.5 points for that. It's just 1 point for every question. But I didn't tell you this, okay? So that you heard that from somebody else. All right, and if you hear that anybody is telling you, oh, the pass rate is 61% or any percentage, wrong. They have no idea what they're talking about. We do not know what the pass rate is for the PMP exam. PMI isn't making this information public. Okay, this is what you get at the end of it all. This is what you want to see there. You want to see the word you here in this area here, in the green area. You passed the exam. This is your certification exam report that you'll get. And you'll see that there is needs improvement here on the left, below target, target, and above target. So you want to be to the right here of the center line. This is where you want to see yourself. They also give this to you here in a table at the bottom where they say, yes, you were above target in the people domain, above target in the process, and above target in the business environment domain. People occasionally ask me, can I pass with a needs improvement? Is it possible if, one of the three is here, can I still pass? And yes, that's possible. For example, if needs improvement is in the business environment domain, this is so small, 8%, you can still pass as long as you are above target here in the other two, right? So this is what the report looks like at the end of the exam. Yeah, and then of course there's this question here. Yeah, so good, but what if I don't pass, right? What does that look like? What do I have to do? Right, here's an example of what one might look like. You can see it identifies, red, yellow, green shading. What areas do you need improvement? Right here, this is where you were below, right? Here you see the U, overall performance fail, right? Yeah, so this is what it's going to look like. And this also means that you now know where to focus your future studies, right? Okay, you've passed. You can take it 2 more times, and then you'll have to wait for a year before you can take it again. But you can take the exam 3 times with each attempt, so to say, with each application that you fill in. So you have another chance. You have 2 more chances, actually, of passing the exam. Now you can look at this this analysis here, and you know exactly where do I have to focus, where am I okay, and where do I have to focus. But again, you're not going to fail, you're going to pass. So this is the only time that you'll see this type of report here. We're moving on to part 4. I know you don't want to hear this because you're preparing for the PMP exam, but it is important to understand the PMP exam is not valid for life. You have to renew it. It is valid for 3 years, then you have to renew it. The good news is you don't have to take the exam again. It's just a renewal process every 3 years. And the renewal process works in such a way that you have to satisfy these requirements, the continuing certification requirements, CCR, there in the second bullet. And that means you have to earn 60 professional development units. And then you can renew. I took my exam in 2004, let's see, 8, 12, 16, 20. So I have renewed my PMP certification 4 times. And in 2024, my certification is coming up for my 5th renewal. So what you do is you have to earn those 60 PDUs, you have to pay a fee, and then it's valid again for another 3 years. Contact hours versus PDUs. Let's just talk about this very briefly here, because I've used 35 contact hours. I mentioned that for the training. And now we're talking about PDUs. This is really quite simple. You can see at the top, the exam is in June, and then all your training that you get before the exam is called contact hours. And all the training you get after the exam is called professional development units. So training for the exam, contact hours, training for the renewal, training after the exam, professional development units, PDUs. This here is the PMI talent triangle. And those 60 PDUs that you earn must fall within the talent triangle. And by the way, you have to earn 8 PDUs in ways of working. You have to earn 8 PDUs here in the power skills, and you have to earn 8 PDUs in the business acumen. This is a webinar in its own, talking about how to do that and all of this, just so you see how easy it is, right? You can go to PMI chapter events to earn your PDUs. You can read a book to earn PDUs. You can take a class to earn PDUs. You can watch online webinars like this here to earn PDUs. You can listen to and watch podcasts in order to earn PDUs. So it's not all that hard to earn your 60 PDUs, as long as you don't forget about it. And then, you know, you have to earn like 60 PDUs in 3 weeks, right? That's 60 hours of earning PDUs in 3 weeks. That's a bit much. All right. I know this is of less interest to you, but you need to understand your PMP certificate is not valid your whole life. You have to renew it every 3 years. Now then, part 5. Let's get ready for your PMP certificate. I want to give you a high-level study plan here, and I also want to talk a little bit about generic study materials. This here is a summary of one of my other webinars. I'll show you the links on the next slide here. And so let me talk your way through it. This is a 1-hour webinar on one single slide here to give you kind of an idea of what it is that you need to do in order to pass the exam. This is a sound, a good structured, a well-structured PMP exam prep approach that you do. So start by reading the ECO, the exam content outline, and the handbook. Based on that information, you can now determine your eligibility and make sure that you can actually take your PMP exam. You want to develop a study plan in order to do this. Much of the study plan is guided by the things that come after that. Then you want to join PMI, and this is simply because when you join PMI, it gets less expensive. You get discounts on various things. So joining PMI early on will be very helpful. And the reason for this is then, apply for the certification. Gets cheaper because you have joined PMI. You can buy or download the PMBOK guide as a PDF document. Because you are a PMI member, you get the PDF document, so you save money there, okay? Then you need to get the training. Remember, you need those 35 contact hours, right? You have to do that. You need to get an exam simulator. And then, this is the hardest one. Study, 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 study. This is what takes most of the time. Once you are done, or once you are in the studying here, you want to practice the questions from the exam simulator. So these 4 here, get the training, get the simulator, study, practice, question. This is where you will be spending most of your time. Then after 12 weeks, usually 10 to 12 weeks of studying and training and all that, you're going to take the exam. You're going to be like that lady here in the background, fist in the air, yay, I passed. And once you passed, you want to develop the PDU plan, because 3 years from that day, you are going to have to renew it. Okay, like I said, this is a 1-hour webinar on one slide, just 2 minutes here for you. Here's where you can go in order to watch the webinar at the top and get everything as a PDF document at the bottom there, pmprepcast.com/10 steps. Going to post that in just a second here in the comments, so you can go to the YouTube link and also get the PDF document. Okay, so that's the study plan. Now, let me talk to you about sort of generic, general study materials that you need. Here we go. This slide is intentionally empty. Okay, so yeah, this is just blue. This is an empty slide. That's intentional, because you cannot take the PMP exam without having the experience. So imagine underlying this slide at the very bottom, outside of this slide, outside your studies, is your experience. 36 months of leading projects, 60 months of leading projects, depending on where you fall there in the prerequisites. Okay, so that's the basis, that's outside. The next thing you want to do is you want to read the exam content outline, maybe also the PMP handbook. The PMP exam content outline defines what you will be tested on, right? This is kind of like the rules of the game. You want to understand what you'll be tested on. If you know what's in the exam content outline, you know what you'll be tested on, yeah, and there won't be any surprises. Then you need a PMP exam prep course. You need those 35 contact hours that you have on your application. And that's where the PMP exam prep course comes into play. You need to definitely take a look at the PMBOK guide and the Agile Practice Guide. Even though the PMP exam is not based on the PMBOK guide, it is an important document for you to read, because it gives you the PMI vocabulary and an understanding how PMI sees project management. The APG is the Agile Practice Guide. That is also a document from PMI. I believe you can download it for free as well from PMI, right? And then on top of that, you want the manifesto and the Scrum guide. And this is because 50% again of the exam is all about Agile. So you're reading the Agile Practice Guide, the manifesto, and the Scrum guide. The Agile Manifesto, by the way, takes you all but 7 minutes to read, right? And then on top of that, you need a PMP exam simulator. Let me go back to what Alma said here. Alma said a while ago, I wanted to recommend your PMP exam simulator for everyone who wants to undertake this journey becoming PMP certified. After all learning and taking as many exam questions, your simulator is what steered me into the right direction and helped me pass the exam last October. So here is an unsolicited positive feedback from Alma here on the PM exam simulator at pmexamsimulator.com. This is my PMP exam simulator. So these are the things that you are going to need for the exam preparation. Now, let's go to Michael's question here. Michael says, the 10 steps book, so that's the 10 steps thing that we had on the previous slide here that I talked about, says download the PMBOK Guide 6th edition. Would 7th edition be more appropriate at this point in time? Michael, I have no satisfying answer for you. This is currently the most frustrating feature, item, point on the PMP exam. PMI has done itself, you, me, and the PMP exam a real disservice by publishing the PMBOK Guide 7th edition, which is focusing on principles and performance domains, whereas previous editions were all focused on processes, knowledge areas. Okay, previous editions of the PMBOK Guide were all about the how of the project management. How do you manage a project, right? What steps do you have to do? What processes do you have to follow? The current PMBOK Guide, these are best practices of project management. Here are some principles, right? What does it mean to lead a team? What does it mean to do risk management? Nothing really about the how do you do it, okay? Yet, most of the questions on the PMP exam talk about the how. What should the project manager have done to avoid this? How could you bring the project back on track because you're behind schedule, right? All of these how questions are still on the PMP exam. So at this point, there is no satisfying answer. Should you get the PMBOK Guide 6th edition? Should you get the PMBOK Guide 7th edition? At this point in time, you need both. Right? And that's why I'm saying it is very unsatisfying. If you ask PMI, which one should I read? They will tell you flat out, PMBOK Guide 7th edition, and they're lying to you because they know the 6th edition is still important and the content of the 6th edition is still important. They are working on something new that's coming out soon. That may change the whole thing again. But right now, I have no satisfying answer to your question, whether it is PMBOK 6 or 7. At this time, it is still both of them, unfortunately, right? If you would like to take a look at my own PMP exam prep products, on the left is my training course called the PM Prepcast at pmprepcast.com. And on the right is the exam simulator. That's the one that Alma said is so good right there. It is at pmexamsimulator.com. Okay. Got a question here before I move on to my takeaways. Amanullah Nouri asks, I would like to ask that who are not product managers and still student, can they take the PMP? The short answer, Amanullah, is no, you cannot, because you do not have the experience. Go for the CAPM, the Certified Associate in Project Management, CAPM. We talked about that earlier here in the presentation right there. We do also have a CAPM training, and we do have a CAPM simulator as well. Yeah, that's it for today, for those 5 areas, those 5 parts of what is PMP takeaways. So the PMP exam is the gold standard of project management certifications. It does have stringent requirements. If you do not meet those requirements, and very likely, Amanullah, because you're still a student at a university, you do not meet the minimum experience, you do not meet the minimum education, you probably won't qualify for it. You have to go for a different certification. The exam is a total of 3 hours and 50 minutes long. You have to answer 180 questions. And again, the questions are based on the exam content outline. The PMBOK Guide is an important document, but the exam content outline is what defines what will be on the exam. And your certificate will be valid for 3 years. During those 3 years, you have to earn 60 PDUs, renew, earn 60 PDUs, renew, and so on. Yeah, and that's it for today. But I'm not going to send you away without showing you a meme today. And the meme is this one here, because this is how it feels to pass the PMP exam. Thank you for joining me. Until next time. Yeah, but before you go, Don't forget, this lesson is part of a series in which I help you to be better prepared for your PMP exam. Visit pm-prepcast.com/more to watch all of them.